The Substitute 2, The Missing Year. Hello, and welcome back. Last time, we met Hannah, a student grappling with the strange new substitute teacher, Mr. Marrow, and a feeling that something was deeply wrong in her small town of Plain Dealing. Her search for answers begins tonight. The Bossier Parish Library stood across from the park, a simple, low-brick building with a sign whose plastic letters warped in the summer heat. Hannah found a booth in the back, where the old air conditioner coughed more than it cooled. She'd come alone. Her boyfriend Tanner thought she needed sleep, that hunting for ghosts in dusty archives was just a way to fight small-town boredom. He didn't see it, though, that loose thread in the fabric of reality she just couldn't stop pulling. The microfilm machine hummed to life, a sound older than the library itself. Reel after reel spun blank, a history erased. Then, halfway through one, faint handwriting shimmered into view. Plain Dealing burned. Plain Dealing rebuilt. Plain Dealing does not exist. The letters seemed to vibrate, jittering as if written right there, under the glass, not printed on film. Just then, a folder she hadn't noticed before slid from the machine's feeder tray. It was a simple manila folder, labeled in stark red pencil, Storage B. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were government documents, dates blacked out, except for one. October 20th, 1971. The subject line hit her like a physical blow. Population deceased, pending review. The location, Plain Dealing, Bossier District 14. Her breath fogged the glass. Population? Deceased? She whispered the words, but they felt too loud in the silent library. She looked up, out the window. The parking lot was full, but something was terribly wrong. Rows of cars sat silent, their headlights glowing softly in the twilight. But there were no drivers. No one coming or going. A ghost lot. A chill that had nothing to do with the failing air conditioner crawled up her spine. She scrambled out of the booth and pushed through the library doors. The air outside was 10 degrees colder, a sudden, unnatural drop. She pulled out her phone. No signal, no time. Just a frozen clock face reading 10:04 p.m. Panic set in. She jumped in her car and sped away from the library, back toward town. But the road seemed to mock her. 5 miles north, the familiar line of trees funneled her into the same curve again and again, looping her right back to the library sign, its warped letters seeming to smile at her. It was a trap. Finally, somehow, the loop broke, and she found herself pulling up to the high school. And there he was, Mr. Marrow, sitting on the front steps as if he'd been waiting for her all along. A cup of coffee, now cold, sat beside him. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "You found it," he said, his voice calm. "What is population deceased?" Hannah's voice was ragged. "What the hell does that mean?" He met her gaze. "It means exactly what it sounds like." A hysterical laugh escaped her throat, dying almost instantly. "Everyone in this town, that's insane. It's impossible." "They weren't supposed to notice," he said softly, his eyes drifting to the buzzing streetlights that cast crawling, distorted shadows on the ground. Hannah crossed her arms, trying to hide the violent shaking in her hands. "You did this. This is some kind of sick lesson, right? About unreliable narrators or something from your class?" He stood up, his tall frame seeming to absorb the dim light. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the night. "You think I'd come back just to haunt your coursework?" "Back from where?" she demanded. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was old-school letterhead. At the top, the name, E. Marrow. The ink was faded and smeared by water damage, but the date was perfectly clear. October 21st, 1971. The day after the document she'd found. Her throat went dry. "You couldn't have written this," she stammered. "You'd be closer than you think," he finished for her. "What the hell does that mean?" she shouted, and her voice echoed off the empty school buildings. But the echoes came back wrong, twisted, as if a dozen different voices were mocking her anger. Marrow flinched, not from her shouting, but with a look of profound pity. "Everyone rewrites their death differently, Hannah. You just happened to wake up in the middle of yours." The wind rustled through the pine trees, but all other sound seemed to vanish. The low rumble of trucks on the highway she'd heard earlier was gone, cut off mid-note. The world had simply stopped carrying noise. Marrow stepped closer. She could smell the cold coffee on his sleeve, a scent both familiar and alien. "When you go back inside," he said, pointing to the school's main entrance, "don't look at the halls the same way. They double back on themselves. You'll understand soon enough." Light glowed from the narrow glass pane in the door. It looked almost inviting. "Why me?" she whispered, the fight draining out of her. "Because you turned in a blank page," he said, his words hitting her with a strange finality. "And something blank leaves room for the truth." She blinked just for a second, and he was gone. The coffee cup on the step toppled over, rolling gently until it came to a stop at her feet. Behind her, the school lights flared, flooding the parking lot. Her shadow stretched impossibly long along the pavement, a dark, distorted version of herself that dissolved just before reaching the door. And then came the sound. From inside, the muffled clang of lockers opening. Not one or two, but all of them, all at once, as if welcoming someone home. And from deep beneath the floor, that slow, vibrating hum she'd heard before returned, growing into a chorus of hundreds of unseen voices whispering together. Plain dealing burned. Plain dealing rebuilt. Plain dealing does not exist. Hannah stood frozen, every instinct screaming at her to run, but she knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that there was nowhere left to run to. She reached out and gripped the door handle. The metal was warm, as if something or someone had just let it go. What lies behind that door? What truth is waiting in the halls that double back on themselves? We'll find out next time. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the final part of Hannah's journey into the heart of plain dealing. Stay safe out there.